Fighting with the swords, gone. Playing with the brain, on. Let's play Giraffe Chess Hattrick League Season 3.
International Giraffe Chess Federation presents Hattrick League Season 3 between 10 Proddatur teams. Hello everyone, welcome to India's new 68 squared Giraffe Chess Academy Proddatur, and welcome to the live telecast of no draws, no resigns, only win or lose in just 70 moves Giraffe Chess Hattrick League 2024 Season 3.
Fighting with the swords, gone. Playing with the brain, on. Let's play Giraffe Chess Hattrick League Season 3.
International Giraffe Chess Federation presents Hattrick League Season 3 between 10 Proddatur teams. Hello everyone, welcome to India's new 68 squared Giraffe Chess Academy Proddatur, and welcome to the live telecast of no draws, no resigns, only win or lose in just 70 moves Giraffe Chess Hattrick League 2024 Season 3. Let us watch Giraffe Chess Hattrick League match number 16 between Proddatur Tigers versus Proddatur Gladiators team. Each team consists of 3 players. Whoever team all outs opponent all 3 players is the match winners. Let us see the toss.
Now let us begin toss. So what's the call? Head is the call. Yes, it is the head. Proddatur Gladiators won the toss. What will decide, the white side or black side? Proddatur Gladiators won the toss and elected to play on white side. All the best for the
in toss,
both players.
Proddatur Gladiators team won the toss and opted to play on white side. And here is the both teams lineup. For Proddatur Tigers team, Sai Akiltej is the opener and Abhinay is the second player, and Gautam Ishwar will comes to play as third player. And for Proddatur Gladiators team, Ishwar is the opener and Jay Bhargav is the second player, and Sufyan will comes to play as third player. Now, let us watch first game of the match between Proddatur Gladiators team opening player Ishwar versus Proddatur Tigers team opening player Sai Akiltej. Let us see among these 2 players who will win this game and who will do hat-trick and who will be the hat-trick hero of today's great match. Let us watch. Let us move on to the court. Young Scholar awardee Proddatur Gladiators team opening player Ishwar is ready to play on white side. Let us see on other side of the court. Young Scholar awardee Proddatur Tigers team opening player Sai Akiltej is ready to play on black side. Now we can see both players are ready to start game 1 of the match. Black side player Sai Akiltej is ready to hit the clock. Yes, he hit the clock. Game 1 started.
Pawn to e3, pawn to h6, pawn to h3, pawn to g5, knight to f3, pawn to f6, pawn to g4, pawn to e6, pawn to d4, pawn to f5, pawn captured, pawn at f5, pawn captured, pawn at f5, knight to e5, giraffe to f6, queen to h5 and check to black king, king to e9, pawn to h4, pawn to d6, knight to g6, queen to e8, pawn capture, pawn at g5, knight to e7, queen to h4, knight capture, knight at g6, Bishop to h3. Rook to g8. Queen to h5. Knight to e5. Pawn captured knight at e5. Pawn captured pawn at e5. Queen to f3. Pawn to b6. Bishop captured pawn at f5. Rook captured pawn at g5. Knight to c3. Bishop to g7. Giraffe to d3. Giraffe to c5. Queen to e4. Queen to f8. Giraffe to e6. Rook captured bishop at f5. Knight to d5. Giraffe captured giraffe at e6. Knight captured pawn at c7. Giraffe to h5. Queen capture rook at a8. Rook captured pawn at f2. Giraffe to c3. Bishop to g4. Pawn to e4. Bishop to f3. King capture rook at f2. Bishop to g2. King to e3. Bishop to rook at h1. Queen to d5. Queen to d6. Giraffe capture queen at d6. King to f8. Knight to e6 and check to blacking. King to f7. Knight capture giraffe at c5. King to g6. Knight to d3. Bishop capture pawn at e4. Knight to f4 and check to black king. King to f5. Queen to f7 and check to black king. King to g4. Queen to g6 and check to black king. King to h4. Queen capture, giraffe at h5. King to g3. Bishop to d2. Knight to d7. Rook to g1 and check to black king. Bishop to g2.
Now Ishwar immediately
Rook capture rook at
captured
g2
bishop
and
at
check to
g2
black king
and set
and
check
it's a
to black
checkmate.
king. It is not only check, it is a checkmate win to Ishwar. What a superb checkmate win to Ishwar. Sai Akhil Tej out. Proddatur Tigers team opening player Sai Akhil Tej out. And Ishwar with this win, he won the first game and still need 2 more wins to do Hattrick and become Hattrick hero of today's great match. Let us watch second game of the match between Proddatur Tigers team second player Abhinay versus Proddatur Gladiators team opening player Ishwar. Let us see among these two players who will win this game and who will do hat-trick and who will be the hat-trick hero of today's great match. Among these two people, Ishwar already won the first game and now playing for winning the second game. Let us watch what will happen. Let us move on to the court. Best Scholar awardee Proddatur Tigers team second player Abhinay is ready to play on white side. Let us see on other side of the court. Best Scholar awardee Proddatur Gladiators team opening player Ishwar is ready to play on black side. Now we can see both players are ready to start game 2 of the match. Black side player Ishwar is ready to hit the clock. Yes, he hit the clock. Game 2 started.
Pawn to e4. Pawn to e6. Knight to f3. Pawn to h6. Pawn to h4. Rook to h7. Pawn to c3. Knight to f6. Queen to c2. Rook to h8. Bishop to e2. Bishop to c5. Knight to d4. Pawn to d5. Pawn capture, pawn at d5. Knight captured, pawn at d5. Queen at a4 and check to black king. Giraffe to c6. Queen to d1. knight to f6, pawn to d3, pawn to e5, knight to b3, giraffe capture knight at b3, pawn capture giraffe at b3, giraffe to d6, pawn to d4, pawn capture pawn at d4, pawn capture pawn d4, bishop to b4 and check to white king, knight to c3, bishop to g4, pawn to f3, bishop to f5, pawn to g4, bishop to e6, pawn to g5, knight to d7, giraffe to e3, giraffe capture giraffe at e3, bishop capture giraffe at e3, knight to c6, pawn to d5, bishop capture pawn at d5, pawn capture pawn at h6, rook to h7, pawn capture pawn at g7, rook capture pawn at g7, bishop to g5, pawn to f6, bishop to d2, queen to e7, knight capture bishop at d5, queen to d6, bishop capture bishop at b4, knight capture bishop at b4, knight capture knight at b4, queen capture knight at b4 and check to white king, queen to d2, queen capture pawn at b3, bishop d3, knight to e5, king to f2, rook to d8, Rook to e1. King to f7. Pawn to f4. Knight captured bishop at d3 and check to white king. Giraffe captured knight at d3. Rook captured giraffe at d3. Queen to e2. Rook to f3. Rook to g1. Rook to f3. Queen captured rook at
Ishwar
f3.
immediately
Queen
captured
queen
queen
at
at
f3 and check to
f3
white king
and set
and it's
check
a
to
checkmate.
white king. It is not only check, it is a checkmate win to Ishwar. What a superb checkmate win to Ishwar. And Abhinay out. Proddatur Tigers team lost the second player. Ishwar, with this win, he continuously won 2 games and still need one more win to do hat-trick and become hat-trick hero of today's great match. Let us watch third game of the match between Proddatur Gladiators team opening player Ishwar versus Proddatur Tigers team last player Gautam Ishwar. Let us see among these two players who will win this game and who will do hat-trick and who will be the hat-trick hero of today's great match. Among these two players, Ishwar already won continuously 2 games and now playing third game for doing hat-trick. Let us see what will happen. Let us move on to the court. Best Scholar awardee Proddatur Gladiators team opening player Ishwar is ready to play on white side. Let us see on other side of the court. One-time hat-trick hero, Best Scholar awardee Proddatur Tigers team last player Gautam Ishwar is ready to play on black side. Now we can see both players are ready to start. Game 3 of the match. Gautam Ishwar on black side is ready to hit the clock. Yes, he hit the clock. Game 3 started.
Pawn to e3. Pawn to e5. Pawn to h3. Pawn to h6. Rook to h2. Bishop to d6. Rook to h1. Giraffe to e6. Giraffe to f3. Giraffe to h5. Pawn to d3. Pawn to e4. Pawn to d4. Pawn capture giraffe at a4. Knight capture pawn at f4. Giraffe to e6. Knight to d2. Pawn to f5. Queen to h5 and check to black king. King to f8. Queen capture pawn at f5 and check to black king. Knight to f6. Queen to a5. Knight to c6. Queen to c3. Bishop to b4. queen to b3, pawn to a5, pawn to a3, bishop to e7, knight to c4, pawn to b5, knight to e5, pawn to a4, queen to c3, giraffe to d6, queen to d2, bishop to d9, giraffe to c3, knight capture knight to e5, pawn capture knight at e5, knight to e4, queen to d4, bishop to g6, pawn capture giraffe at d6, bishop to f6, queen to d1, bishop to h4, bishop to d3, bishop to h5, bishop to e2, bishop to g6, pawn to g3, bishop to f6, bishop to h5, bishop capture bishop at h5, queen capture bishop at h5, giraffe capture queen at h5, giraffe to f4, pawn capture pawn at d6, knight to c3, knight capture knight at c3, giraffe capture knight at c3, queen to e8. Giraffe captured pawn at b6. Rook to c8. Pawn to g4. Giraffe to e4. Pawn to f4. Queen to e6. Giraffe to c3. Bishop to d2. Giraffe to f7. K e2. King to e2. Queen to c4 and check to white king. King to f3. Queen to e4 and check to white king. King to e2. Rook to c5. Rook to d1. Queen to g2 and check to white king. King to d3.
Now Gautam Ishwar. Yes, Gautam
Rook to
Ishwar
d5
immediately
and check
moved
to
his
white king
rook
and
to
it's a checkmate.
d5 and said check to white king. It is not only check, it is a checkmate win to Gautam Ishwar. What a superb checkmate win to Gautam Ishwar. And Ishwar, who is on Hattrick, he big disappointment to Ishwar. He lost the Hattrick chance by the checkmate of Gautam Ishwar. What a superb checkmate win to by the Gautam Ishwar. Ishwar out. Proddatur Gladiators team opening player Ishwar out. So Gautam Ishwar, he did superb, extraordinary checkmate win. Now, let us watch fourth game of the match between Proddatur Tigers team last player Gautam Ishwar versus Proddatur Gladiators team second player Jay Bhargav Reddy. Let us see who will win this game. If Jay Bhargav Reddy wins this game, his Proddatur Gladiators team won the match. If Gautam Ishwar wins this game, match will be tied with 2-all games and go for fifth game for result. Let us move on to the court. One-time Hattrick hero, best scholar awardee, Proddatur Tigers team last player Gautam Ishwar is ready to play on white side. Let us see on other side of the court. Best scholar awardee, Proddatur Gladiators team second player Jay Bhargav Reddy is ready to play on black side. Now we can see both players are ready to start game 4 of the match. Black side player Jay Bhargav Reddy is ready to hit the clock. Yes, he hit the clock. Game 4 started.
Pawn to e3. Pawn to e5. Pawn to f3. Knight to c6. Pawn to d3. Knight to f6. Pawn to e4. pawn to d5, pawn capture pawn at d5, queen capture pawn at d5, pawn to c4, queen to d8, knight to e2, bishop to c5, pawn to a3, pawn to a5, pawn to b4, pawn capture pawn at b4, pawn capture pawn at b4, bishop capture pawn at b4 and check to white king, bishop to d2, bishop capture bishop at d2 and check to white king, knight capture bishop at d2, rook capture rook at a1, giraffe capture rook at a1, bishop to f5, knight to g3, bishop to g6, pawn to h4, pawn to h6, pawn to h5, bishop to h7, bishop to e2, giraffe to e6, rook to f1, giraffe captured pawn at d3, giraffe captured giraffe at d3, bishop captured giraffe at d3, capture bishop at d3, queen capture bishop at d3, knight to e2, knight to b4, knight to c1, knight to c2 and check to white king, k to e0, queen to e3 and check to white king, knight to e2, knight to d4, rook to e1, queen to f2, rook to f1, queen capture knight e2 and check to white king, queen capture queen at e2, knight capture queen at e2, king to e1, knight to f4, king to f2, Giraffe to d6, pawn to g3, knight to d3 and check to white king, king to e2, knight to c5, giraffe to b4, king to d7, rook to d1, rook to e8, knight to f1, pawn to e4, king to d2, pawn capture pawn at f3, king to c2, rook to e2 and check to white king, knight to d2, pawn to f2, giraffe to c1, rook to e1, giraffe capture pawn at f2, rook capture rook onto d1, king capture rook at d1, king to c6, king to e2, pawn to b5, king to f3, pawn captured pawn at c4, king to f4, king to d5, king to f5, king to d4, knight to f3 and check to black king, king to e3, knight to e5, king capture giraffe at f2, knight capture pawn at f7, king to
Now we
e1,
can see Jay Bhargav is just one step away to
King
win
to
by crowning.
e5,
Yes, he moved
King
his
to
king to
E0
E0
crowning
and won the game by crowning. What a superb crowning win to Jay Bhargav Reddy and Proddatur Tigers team. Last player Gautam Ishwar out, and with this out, Proddatur Tigers team all out and lost the match. And whereas Jay Bhargav Reddy, he won the game and makes his team won the match. Giraffe Chess Hattrick League 2024 Season 3. Let us see match number 16. Proddatur Tigers vs Proddatur Gladiators match scorecard. Game 1. Proddatur Gladiators player Ishwar outs Proddatur Tigers player Sai Akhil Tej by checkmate in 40 moves. In Game 2. Proddatur Gladiators player again Ishwar outs Proddatur Tigers player Abhinay by checkmate in 38 moves. And in Game 3, Proddatur Tigers player Gautam Ishwar outs Proddatur Gladiators player Ishwar by checkmate in 42 moves. Ishwar lost hat-trick opportunity. In Game 4, Proddatur Gladiators player Bhargav outs Proddatur Tigers player Gautam Ishwar by crowning in 48 moves. And here is the final result. Proddatur Gladiators team won the match by all-outs Proddatur Tigers team in 4 games. And here is the points table of Giraffe Chess Hattrick League 2024 Season 3. Let us see what are the top 4 teams after finishing off 16 matches. Proddatur Kings team with 6 points stands on first position. Proddatur Chirtas team with 6 points stands on second position. Proddatur Spartans team with 4 points stands in third position. Proddatur Jaguars team with 4 points stands on fourth position. Each team after finishing off 9 matches, final points are calculated for the top 4 positions. Top 4 teams only qualify for the final playoffs.